Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. We're talking about an incredible, amazing Broadway play that is coming to Alexandria. It's entitled Black Angels Over Tuskegee, and it's brought here by a native Alexandrian, an Alexandria son. His name, Layon Gray. Many of you know him as Leon. He's the writer and the director, and he's from right here in Alexandria. He joins us from New York City. Layon, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We were making a joke about his name because when you have been tagged a nickname or a name your whole life, and probably everybody called you Leon, and they're going to say Layon. Well, they know you as Leon, so. But nevertheless, so Layon, you've spent the last 20 plus years directing and developing stage plays. Tell us how a country boy from Alexandria finds his way to Broadway.
That's an interesting question. When I was young, I always had the fascination of, just entertainment and movies. I would watch movies all the time growing up, but you never think you can reach that was attainable. Being in a small town like Alexandria. So I did the route of football. I was quarterback at the best school in Alexandria, Peabody Magnet High
School. The War Horses.
So I was a standout athlete there, and then I went to college. And
when did the arts become part of your DNA?
When I was young, that's it. When I was in high school, I had a band, a high school band. I was the lead singer, if you could believe that. And I just always was fascinated with just being on stage and everything. But I knew, to get a scholarship, I had to get a scholarship in sports to actually, leave the town. So an interesting story. When I went to Northwestern State University, I was playing football, leaving practice one day. And Grease, the film, is my all-time favorite movie ever. So I was coming from practice. I asked this guy, I said, so where are they playing the movie at? And he's like, it's coming from the theater department. I'm like, well, what's the theater department? I had no idea about theater. And I walked in, I looked in, I saw these kids on stage just performing the movie that I loved. And right in that moment, I said, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. So that's what kind of triggered the switch on to really, really pursue this. So I auditioned for a play. I didn't know how to audition. Went to the library, checked out a book on how to audition, did it, and I got a role in a play, and I acted in it, and it was done. It was over right in that moment.
So you got bitten by the bug at that moment?
Oh, yeah. I mean, growing up, I always was interested, but didn't think it was possible until I actually saw it on stage. And then that's when I knew that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
So you leave Natchitoches, and do you go straight to LA from Natchitoches?
No, I go to it was called USL back then in Lafayette. It's U of L at Lafayette, I think. So I went there, and they had a great theater department. Did a lot of theater there. Then there wasn't a lot of roles being cast for African American men. So I said, you know what? I just want to create my own work. So I just started creating little skits on campus and everything, and they would get sold out. So people would actually come to the theater to see my plays instead of the theater department. So it got really huge with me just doing little skits I wrote on campus. And then I was like, you know what? I think I could do this. I could write and actually make money doing theater. And then I was in a play in Lafayette, and these producers from San Francisco say, well, we want the play, and we want to bring you. This was 1999. And they said, we want to bring you. So I said, absolutely. So I went to San Francisco, did the play. It was huge.
So let me stop you there, because had you ever been out of Louisiana in your life at that point?
Only Texas.
Okay.
By car.
So that doesn't count necessarily. So when somebody says, we want you to go to San Francisco, what does your family, what do your folks say about that?
Well, everyone was First of all, everyone was taken back when I quit football because that was my thing. And when I said I wanted to do the acting thing, everyone was, oh, okay, well, how you gonna make a living doing that? And you always have the backlash on that. You still hear that to this day with a lot of people. But my mother was very supportive. She was my huge fan, and she said, "Go for it." So I got on a plane and I left and went to San Francisco. And I tell you, with the plane just guiding in over these huge buildings, I had never seen buildings so tall before in my life. So I said, I know this is where I'm supposed to be. So I did the show in Frisco, and then I had a relative who lived in Anaheim, and he said, just come live with me while you pursue acting in LA. I said, okay. So I lived with him for 6 months, and I was commuting back and forth to Los Angeles. And then I finally moved to LA and was booking small roles, and then finally booked a day role on The Young and the Restless. And then some movies when they had Blockbuster Video and all those straight to video type movies.
Right.
And here again, it was the same thing. I was being cast in those roles I didn't want to play. So that's when I decided to write a full length play.
So did you just say, you know what, there are no roles for me? Did you get discouraged?
You know what?
Initially?
It was at first. I was just happy to be working. As an actor, even if there were gangster roles and those type of parts. But then, something said, Layon, you can't do this forever. And I always say I like to live positive and uplift the African American male race. So that's when I decided to just start creating my own work, start writing my own stuff, kind of like I was doing in Lafayette. This was a whole nother, a huge level.
And so, but now you have more wisdom and more experience under your belt to draw on what you had started all those years ago.
Yes, exactly. It went through a whole process. I grew as a writer, I grew as an artist, I grew as a man, just in general of the stories that I wanted to tell, that I wanted to put out to the world from my library of plays.
Wow. Take us back to when you decided to write this particular play.
Okay, it was 2007-ish, 2008. President Bush was giving the Congressional Medal of Honor to the Tuskegee Airmen. And I was sitting there watching this on television. I was so moved by these men in their 80s and 90s walking on stage to receive this award. And I told my best friend, I said, you know what? I want to write a play about the Tuskegee Airmen because there had never been a play. There was a movie in the early 90s. HBO had produced a movie, but nothing else. And he said, well, there's an actual Tuskegee Airman who lives next door to him.
Quit it.
Yeah, I say, so what? So
what are the chances?
I know, right? So I had an opportunity to sit down and talk with this gentleman. And, I could see it in his eyes, when I just started asking questions, the memories and everything that was coming back. And the one thing that stood out was he never talked about all the medals they received and the awards they got after the war or during the war. He talked about the friendships he created, the brothers who he lost who had died. And I knew that's the angle that I wanted to tell in creating Black Angels Over Tuskegee. And when we had an opportunity to do the show in 2009 at the Las Vegas National Chapter, when all the Tuskegee Airmen was there, this was the first time we'd actually performed for them. So I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, I hope they like the play.
Right. Will it be something that will be reflective of their service?
Exactly. So we did the play, and when the curtains dropped, there was total silence. I'm like, oh my God, they didn't like this show. But all of a sudden, it was kind of like out of a movie. You heard one applause, and then there was this roar of applause. Lights came on, and we took our bows. They were all up on their feet in tears. Their wives were crying. And one airman came up to me, and he said, Layon, out of all the stories and books that have been written about us, this is the one that rings true. Thank you for telling our story the right way.
What did that do to your heart
Oh
and
my
your
God.
soul?
It just brought tears inside because, the show has, been around the world, received great reviews and everything, but nothing will ever, ever compare to what that gentleman said to me that day at that convention.
So tell me about going inward and taking all of the history that came from that airman. How did it begin to flow out of you and onto the paper?
Wow, that's a very good question because then when I wrote it, there's information on the Tuskegee Airmen, but there's not a lot. So what I had to go off was what was on the internet. The internet could be up and down. You know what's true. You
Right.
know what's fact. So I wrote the play just based on what I was studying offline and a few books. And one gentleman, one of the airmen, he still loves to play. He actually, his name is Ted Lumpkin out of Los Angeles. He still sends me letters and everything about the play. But he told me, he said, "Okay, Layon, we didn't stand like that. We didn't salute like that. Our tie was this way." I'm like, "Yes, sir." Taking notes.
Yes.
So I got the actual real information from the actual Tuskegee Airmen. So taking that knowledge and putting it into the play now
Makes it
was a
more authentic.
yes, exactly, exactly. Because the way they walked, the way they saluted was different in the 40s than it is now. And creating it, I was just going off of the military right now. And he created all of that, everything factual, everything in the play is true. I always say it's I call it historical fiction. The facts are true, but I created a story with 6 different people around the facts. So it's not about one particular Tuskegee Airman. I embodied their whole service that they put into all 6 of these characters.
And so, what did you learn about the time and the feeling and the way that the African American pilots were treated and lived and worked to serve their country?
Man, just listening to them talk because we've been doing the show for 10 years in New York and a year and a half in LA. So I've met so many of them. A lot of them have passed on now. But just sitting back, not saying a word, just listening to them talk, feed us the knowledge, of what they went through back during the day. Because remember, this was a time when, African Americans were considered nothing. They
Right.
did a study that said the African American brain was small. They don't have the capacity to fly an airplane. And here these men use this as an opportunity to prove everybody wrong. Whereas basic training was 5 to 6 weeks, and then you would go off and you would fight in the war. You would help the country. These guys stayed in training for like 4 or 5 months, but they didn't complain. That the white officers would not let them go and fight. They didn't complain. What they did was continue to get better, continue and continue to make sure that everything was correct when that number was called. And when their number was called, they ended up being the best fighter unit ever. A lot of records still stand to this day. And one airman, going back to your initial question, he said, people ask that question a lot. How could you go and fight for a country who think less of you? And he said, well, this is my country too. I want to go and help and protect my country. And the dichotomy of that is when they were over in Italy and Africa, they were treated like kings by the Italians. And then when the war was over, they came back here. They had one airman said they got off of the flight fully decorated with medals. And it had one line that said, whites this way, and then the N word that way.
Wow.
So they was like, wow, here I am fighting for my country, and I come back to
As a
this.
second class citizen.
Exactly. And a lot of them couldn't even get jobs once they came back. Here they can fly these P-51 airplanes, the best ever, and they can't even get commercial license to fly, for American Airlines or Delta, or whoever it was at the time.
Wow.
But they didn't let that hold them back. A lot of them went on to prevail, a lot of them.
What goes into your thought process about bringing this play that has had so much acclaim, started off, didn't know how it was going to do in New York, and it's run on Broadway for the last decade? What goes into, I'm going to bring it home?
I can't tell you how I'm feeling right now. And it's amazing. And it's being performed at the Coughlin Saunders Performing Arts Center, which is literally about 10 minutes from where I grew up.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, I'm so excited. We played the World War II Museum about 3 years ago, and in New Orleans. And I was like, oh my God, I wish I could get this play home. I wish. And it's taken, 3-4 years now to get us there. So I'm so excited for my family to see it, for all my classmates to see it, and just Alexandria in general, just to come out and witness what the Tuskegee Airmen went through. Because I say it's not just African-American history.
It's history.
It's American, exactly. And it's not in history books. And I always put in our agreements wherever we perform, I say, you have to put a school performance for the kids. We have a 50-minute version that we do for students. And I always say it's in all contracts that we present this for kids. So fortunately, and I'm so excited, we will be performing a show for over 1,000 students that Friday morning at Pineville High School. So 1,000 kids will get to experience and understand the Tuskegee Airmen and what they went through.
So,
and then,
go ahead.
And then that Saturday night, we get to open it up to the audience.
And so tell me what it feels like and what you want people who are listening and who are watching this conversation to understand that have never embarked upon Broadway, let alone New York. What it means to have that type of culture brought to Central Louisiana.
I think, the audience, Alexandria will see an incredible show. I always say theater is the best art form there is when it comes to entertainment compared to film and television, because it's right in your face. It's instant. On stage, the actors feel your breathing. The actors we hear the tears and everything. So that's the closest that I say that a human can get to reality and understanding themselves through actors on stage. So just coming out and experiencing a theatrical moment, especially of something of this caliber and of, this story is very important for everyone to come out. And I would say, it's all nationalities who come out. I actually play a part in the play.
Wow.
So I get a chance to act in the show. And I'll never forget this story as well. We were doing a show in New York City. And there, at the end of the show, we always come out and we meet and greet the audience members and thank them for coming and giving us their energy. And there was this one lady, she had to be in her 80s, a little Jewish woman. And she said, my character reminded her of her son. And she grabbed me and just couldn't stop holding me and crying. So this play affects all nationalities, all races, all creeds. And I hope everyone really come out and experience this story about brotherhood, about family, because that's what the Tuskegee Airmen stood for.
And there are some people like Mark and Yvanka Brown and others who have flown from Alexandria to New York to see this play on Broadway. What did that mean to you?
That was incredible. It started out with Mrs. Friedman, who's on the Arts Council. She came out to see the show, and she immediately said, okay, we got to get this show home. We got to get this show back to Alexandria. So her and Mark connected, and then Mark just took it and just just took off like an arrow and found all the sponsors and all the good people that have bring this show here. So it's, it's a beautiful, and I grew up with Mark. So Mark and I played marbles together.
Some people don't even know what that is, depending on what age they're in. So tell me this. You are living proof that possibility exists. In its largest form, this play and your work has been critically acclaimed. And so what do you say to those 1,000+ students that will have an opportunity to see this play? What do you say to them that feel like their only route is athletics? And then those who do have an adaptation to the arts, what do you say to them?
I just stick to, what you will get a lot of no's. Believe you me, I got so many no's, but you have to put that behind you. You have to continue.
How did you do that?
You don't listen to the noise. You just put blinders on and continue going forward. I've never ever let anything discourage me from doing what I wanted to do. Like even growing up, in Alexandria playing sports and everything, I knew I wanted to be in the art field. I just didn't know how to get there.
Right.
So when I got to college, then I was like, here it is. This is my through line. This is my pathway. Because everybody's journey is different. My journey is different than your journey, than the next person. The thing is, you have to take your journey and guide it the best way you can to where you want to go. And just continue on your path. Mm-hmm. Continue.
So let me ask you this. How much of a role did faith play for you on this journey?
I grew up in the church. I played drums in the church. So, God has and is still, my driver. He's in control. This ain't got nothing to do with me. This is all God. Mm-hmm. So I'm just sitting back and enjoying the moment. Like we say, there's a quote in the play where we say, failure is not an option. Success has unlimited possibilities. I use that in every day. When I wake up, I clap my hands and say, today is going to be a good day. And living positive is the way I like to live my life.
Success has unlimited possibilities.
And a Tuskegee Airmen said that.
Amazing. I am going to carry that quote with me. Before you've got to go, Layon, tell people how they can get the tickets, what time, the first curtain. How many, is it going to just be one showing?
It's one showing only, September 14th at the Coughlin Saunders Performing Arts Center. You can go on our website to get the tickets. You can call the box office to get the tickets. I would encourage you to do it ASAP because it is expected to sell out. They already said tickets are going fast.
Absolutely. Amazing. Layon, thank you so much for taking the time. We cannot wait to be just mesmerized by history and the story of the Tuskegee Airmen. The play, once again, is entitled Black Angels Over Tuskegee. Layon, it was our great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Indeed. Hey, everybody, stay on point. We're back right after this.